My sister, Coris Vane, worked as a small-town physician in Redwillow Township, specializing in fertility cases. She used to joke that she was afraid I'd end up in a dead marriage, stuck with a man who looked capable but couldn't deliver. So every time I started seeing someone, she found a way to insert herself. She would cling, linger, and get far too close. And after she slept with them, she would come back to me with marks still visible on her skin. "I tried him for you," she'd say lightly. "He's selfish. Wouldn't even stop when I told him to. You don't want a man like that." Each time, I fell apart a little more, until I finally cut her out of my life and left Redwillow behind. That was when I met Rhett Calder, the youngest unit captain at North Ridge Tactical Base. Steady, composed, and impossible not to notice. On the day of our wedding, the reception was held in the plant cafeteria hall, filled with people and noise. And in the middle of it all, I saw her. Coris had transformed herself completely. Now she stood there as Rhett's attached field medic, smiling as if she belonged. "My dear," she said softly, "I should give him one last test run. I won't feel right letting you marry him otherwise." I never saw it coming. When I woke up, I dragged people with me and stormed inside. The scene exploded into chaos, drawing the entire township and base into it. She was arrested on the spot, charged with felony misconduct, and taken away. Later, she was sentenced. On our son's first birthday, Rhett told me he had a surprise. Instead, he drove me out to a decommissioned military test field. The moment the ground gave way beneath us and something clicked underfoot, I dropped to my knees. I begged him to take our child and run. Rhett just stood there, watching me with cold, distant eyes. "Coris only wanted one thing before the wedding," he said. "She wanted something to remember me by. You destroyed her life." She was arrested, sentenced, and when she died, she was carrying my child. He looked at me like I was nothing. "You and that kid of yours," he said flatly, "should pay for what you did to her." To them. That was the moment I understood. He had loved her all along. The explosion tore through everything. My body, my child, there was nothing left to piece back together. And then I opened my eyes again. I was back to the day she showed up at my wedding. The slap landed hard across my face. I stood there in shock, my hand pressed to my cheek. Before it hit me, I was back. A sharp pain tore through my scalp as someone yanked my hair. When I looked up, I saw Rhett's mother, Marilyn Calder, her expression twisted, and Coris beside her, wearing that same almost smile. Just like last time. Coris held up a forged premarital health report, feeding Marilyn lie after lie. She had nearly ruined my reputation and my wedding. Marilyn shot me a look, then scoffed. "You're unbelievable. I almost let you marry into this family. I should have known better. Maybe I should just beat some sense into you." Coris stepped in, all false concern. "Maybe it's not what it looks like," she said gently. "Sometimes infections happen accidentally. Shared towels, public places, you never know." Marilyn's face darkened further. "Stop defending her. The report says she's had multiple terminations. You expect me to believe that's an accident?" The women helping me get ready fell silent. Then came the looks, sharp, judging, disgusted. Good thing the field medic caught it in time. Rhett almost married her. In my last life, I broke. I lunged at Coris, grabbing her clothes, screaming, "Why are you doing this to me? Why do you have to destroy everything I have?" The commotion brought Rhett and several division chiefs over. Coris immediately threw herself into his arms. "Captain Calder, I was just bringing over the health clearance," she said, voice trembling. She seemed nervous, so I made a small joke. I didn't think she'd react like this. I turned to Rhett, desperate, trying to explain everything, how she had fabricated it, how she was trying to tear us apart. Coris blinked innocently. "I never said anything like that," she replied softly. "I just mentioned a minor cold. Maybe you misunderstood. And besides, I don't even know you. Why would I want to ruin your marriage? If anything, I want Captain Calder to be happy." I tried to pull Marilyn and the others in to back me up. But Rhett cut me off, his tone firm. "Briar. Enough. It was a joke. Coris is part of our unit. If you keep this up, you're embarrassing all of us." My eyes burned as I looked at him, at the cold faces around him. And in the end, for his reputation, for his future. I swallowed everything. But not this time. I shoved Marilyn aside. Then I raised my hand and slapped Coris across the face with everything I had. The sound cracked through the room. She stumbled to the floor, staring up at me in stunned disbelief. Her scream drew everyone's attention instantly. Just like before, Rhett and the others rushed over. Coris's eyes reddened as she scrambled up, trying to fall into his arms. But I moved first. I tore the veil from my head and threw it to the ground. Rhett called her, I said, my voice cold and steady. If this is your idea of a wedding gift letting your medic spread lies about me, then this wedding is off. Rhett stared at me, clearly thrown off. Briar, what are you talking about? What lies? He frowned and turned to Coris, his tone still gentle. Walk us through it. How did this turn into a misunderstanding? If you crossed a line, then apologize, he added. And if Briar misunderstood, I'll have her apologize too. Don't worry. Coris lifted her gaze, soft and shimmering, about to speak, but I cut her off with a quiet, cold laugh. I looked straight at the division chiefs. I'd really like to know what kind of training your medical staff receives, I said. Since apparently it's acceptable for them to joke about someone's health and spread false claims. If this was approved by your unit or by Captain Calder, then go ahead and cancel this wedding. I have no intention of marrying a man who doesn't respect me. I pulled the bridal corsage from my dress and let it drop to the floor. Then I turned and walked. Briar. Rhett caught up fast and grabbed my wrist, panic flashing in his eyes. I didn't know she'd say something like that, he said quickly. She just gets carried away sometimes. No boundaries. I'll apologize for her. But you can't just call off a wedding like that, he pressed. You know the command staff from both divisions are here. If you make a scene now, I almost laughed. Rhett Calder, the youngest captain at Northridge, was up for promotion this year. A stable marriage and a supportive partner only strengthened his profile. Even if he cared about Coris, he would never let her damage his image in front of his superiors. In my last life, I loved him too much to push. I swallowed everything just to keep things smooth for him. But this time, all I had left was resentment. I turned back, my voice flat. We can still go through with the wedding, I said. But I need to see accountability. My eyes locked onto Coris, my tone softening just enough to sound hurt. This is supposed to be a celebration, I said. And she chose today of all days to say I'm sick. That's not a joke, that's a curse. Even enemies don't stoop that low. What Coris Vane did crossed a line. I touched the mark still burning on my cheek, letting my voice shake slightly. She misled Marilyn and turned her against me. She almost ruined everything. Am I not allowed to ask for an explanation? The women around us began to murmur in agreement. Marilyn glanced at my face, guilt flickering through her expression. She cleared her throat and spoke up. She's right. This whole thing started because of Coris running her mouth. She owes us an explanation. Only then did Rhett seem to notice the mark on my face. Something softened in his eyes for a second. But the moment I pushed for consequences, hesitation replaced it. I didn't even look at him. I turned to the command staff instead. They didn't take long. Coris Vane will be demoted, one of them said, and assigned to 1 month of mandatory service duty. A small smile curved at the corner of my lips. That's not enough, I said. She needs to apologize. Right here. In front of everyone. Coris's eyes filled with tears. Under the weight of every stare in the room, she bowed her head. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Then she turned and ran, her shoulders shaking as the crowd's whispers followed her out. Rhett's gaze lingered on her retreating figure. His throat moved, like he wanted to say something. Then he turned back to me. She's not familiar with the base, he said. I should check on her. Make sure she's okay. I let out a quiet scoff and said nothing. I waited. Waited until the reception wound down, until the timing lined up with what I remembered. Then I stood up suddenly, putting on a look of surprise. Has anyone seen Rhett? I called out. Did he drink too much? Can someone help me find him? I made sure to pull a few of the division chiefs along with me, and I led them straight toward the on-base housing unit. Coris had always loved one thing above all else, making me watch. Watching her with my fiancé. In my space. On my bed. If nothing had changed, that's exactly where they'd be now. But this time I was the one in control. I was going to drag everything into the light. Let them fall apart in front of everyone. The sounds came first. Breathing. Movement. I didn't hesitate. I kicked the door open. But inside was only Rhett. He leaned back against the headboard, fully dressed, his expression unreadable. The glass of drugged water I had expected him to drink lay shattered on the floor. Spilled. Untouched. Coris was nowhere in sight. For a moment, my mind went blank. Everything looks fine, one of the chiefs said behind me. We'll give you two some privacy. They closed the door on their way out. Silence settled in the room. Then Rhett looked at me. That same expression from my last life, cold, sharp, full of quiet disgust. Briar Hale, he said slowly, I didn't expect you to make the same move again. You still haven't learned. His voice dropped. You were trying to set your own sister up. Send her to prison. But not this time. His gaze hardened. As long as I'm here, no one touches Coris. Not her. And not the child she's carrying. So, you remember too. The words slipped out before I could stop them. A flicker of shock hit me, but it settled just as quickly. There was no point pretending anymore. I looked at him, expression flat. Then let's end this, I said. We're done. Rhett didn't hesitate. No. I let out a short, incredulous laugh. Are you serious? I said. You're so worried I'll hurt Coris. You're desperate to make it up to her and that child, so what's stopping you? If we walk away now, you can be with her openly. Or is it your career? I added, a faint smile tugging at my lips. Afraid a separation might ruin your chances this year? His expression tightened. Don't twist things, he said. I've already explained this. Whatever you think is going on between me and Coris, it's not like that. She just wanted something for herself. That's all. I made a commitment to you, he continued. You're the one I'm marrying. And I'm not ending this. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh again. I don't want that, I said coldly. What makes you think I'd stay with you after what you did to me and to my child? Something flickered in his eyes. Briar, he said quietly, that was another life. This time, I'll treat you right. Before I could respond, he stepped back, pulled the door open, and locked it behind him. The click echoed through the room. A cold unease settled in my chest. I rushed forward, slamming my hands against the door. Rhett, what are you doing? Open it. His voice came through from the other side, low and uneven. You know Coris is pregnant, he said. She's young. If people find out, it'll ruin her. I promised her, once the baby's born, we'll bring it back. Raise it as ours. My blood ran cold. I know you resent her, he continued. And I can't risk you taking it out on the child. So I'm making sure you can't have one of your own. The words didn't register at first. Then, I'm sorry, he said. But this way, you'll have no choice but to accept it. You'll focus on raising that child. Something inside me snapped. Have you lost your mind? I screamed. If you want to make it up to her, then leave me out of it. You can do whatever you want after we separate. What gives you the right to do this to me? What gives you the right to destroy me just to prove your love for her? His voice softened. You owe her. You owe her and that child a life. Briar, after this, I'll cut ties with her completely. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I screamed at him, cursed him, pounded the door until my hands ached, but his footsteps faded anyway. And then the door burst open. Several men stepped inside. The moment I saw their faces, my breath caught. I knew them. They were violent offenders Rhett had personally brought in not long ago. Men with records soaked in assault and murder. And in that instant, I understood. Even with everything I had already lost, the realization still tore through me like a blade. Coris stood in the distance, holding a key. Smiling. Tears blurred my vision. Why? I choked out. Why won't you just let me go? I'm your sister. Her expression twisted. Don't pretend you don't know, she snapped. You've always had everything. Since we were kids, they chose you. Every time. You think I didn't notice? She continued, her voice rising. They sold everything we had and handed it all to you. Why do you get a future and I get nothing? If they wanted you to have a perfect life, She said coldly, "Then I'll be the one to tear it apart. I'll make you lose everything. Just like me." Her words hit like ice water. My body shook. "You're wrong," I said, my voice breaking. "You don't even know what you're talking about. Where do you think your tuition came from? The life you had in the city, who paid for that? They chose you," I said. "Not me. They tore up my acceptance letter so you could go instead." "I got married early because someone offered to cover your education," I forced out. "That's the only reason I ended up here." She didn't even blink. "So what?" she said. "If you hadn't been born, I would have had more." Her lips curled. "At the end of the day, Briar Hale, you shouldn't exist. But it's fine," she added lightly. "Once you're gone, everything you have becomes mine." She laughed, bright and sharp. "I should thank you, really. If you hadn't found someone like Rhett, I wouldn't have known where to find a father for my child." "Don't worry," she said. "We'll be very happy together." Then her expression hardened. "Make it messy," she told the men. "And when you're done, leave her out on the road. I want everyone to see what kind of bride she really is." "No." They forced me to the ground, fabric tearing under their hands as they grabbed at me from every direction. My voice broke as I screamed, the sound barely cutting through the chaos. Coris locked the door behind her and slipped back toward the reception, already putting her mask back on. And then, a second later, the world exploded. The blast ripped through the air, deafening, violent. Flames surged outward, swallowing the on-base housing unit in an instant. Chairs scraped loudly against the floor as people jumped to their feet. "The housing unit's on fire," someone shouted. "The bride's still inside, get help now." Rhett's chest tightened without warning. Something felt off wrong in a way he couldn't explain. He shoved his chair back so hard it toppled, then bolted toward the housing block. "Briar," he shouted. "She's still inside." Flames were already climbing high by the time everyone reached the scene. Coris hesitated for a split second, unease flashing across her face, but quickly forced a smile. "Rhett, it's probably nothing." He shoved her aside without even looking at her. By the time they got close, I was already crawling out of the burning unit. My clothes were torn. My skin was scorched. Smoke burned through my throat with every breath. I forced myself upright. Then I screamed. "Command staff, listen to me. I'm filing a formal report. My husband, Rhett Calder, has been sleeping with his medic. He let violent offenders into my home. They were sent to assault me, to kill me." "Briar Hale, what the hell are you saying?" Rhett's voice cracked through the chaos. He stepped forward, pulling Coris protectively behind him as she swayed weakly, eyes red with tears. "You've always been jealous, that's one thing," he snapped. "But you don't get to accuse my medic of something like this. Coris has treated me in the field. She's saved my life more than once," he went on, voice hard. "And this is how you repay her?" He turned to the division chiefs, his expression tight with controlled frustration. "I won't hide it," he said. "My wife has a history of instability. She fixates on the idea that I'm unfaithful." He exhaled slowly. "I'm sorry for the damage this has caused to Coris Vane. I'll take responsibility. I'll file a formal disciplinary report myself," he continued. "I'll address it publicly. She will apologize." Coris clutched his sleeve, her voice trembling. "As long as you believe me, that's enough." Around us, the murmurs shifted. Disapproval. Judgment. I didn't expect this from her. On her wedding day, no less. Rhett really got unlucky. I let out a quiet, humorless laugh. Then I looked straight at him. "You're so confident I'm lying?" I said. "Then let your medic go through a proper exam." My gaze dropped deliberately. "Or better yet, have someone here take a look. She's about 4 months along, isn't she?" Silence hit like a wall. Every pair of eyes shifted toward Coris, toward the loose fabric of her clothes. She froze. Then panic flooded her face. "You're making things up," she cried. "You're trying to humiliate me in front of everyone." Her voice broke. "You want me to expose myself just to prove I'm innocent? You're trying to ruin me. If that's what it takes," she whispered. Then suddenly, she turned and ran. "Coris!" Rhett lunged after her and caught her just as she stumbled. She collapsed against him, her face pale, her body going limp in his arms. His expression snapped. cold and decisive. He turned toward the command staff. "This has gone far enough," he said. "I'm requesting a psychiatric hold on my wife. I've been informed that electroconvulsive therapy can stabilize severe cases. I'm formally requesting treatment authorization." The words hit like ice. I stared at him. "You can't be serious," I said. "Everything I said is true. If you don't believe me, check your holding facility," I pressed. "The offenders your unit brought in a few days ago, are they still there?" My voice sharpened. The only person with the authority to release them is him. For a moment, the division chiefs hesitated. One of them reached for a comm device. Rhett cut in sharply. "Enough." His tone dropped, steady and absolute. "I'm putting my career on the line," he said. "Everything she said is false." There was no release. No assault. Nothing. "If I'm wrong," he added, "I'll accept full responsibility. I'll step down." Silence stretched. Then the chiefs exchanged a glance. When they looked back at me, their decision was already made. "Ms. Hale," one of them said, "measured and calm, you need treatment. The sooner you begin, the better your chances of recovery." "No." I fought, screamed, twisted against the hands grabbing me. But it didn't matter. Rhett's officers forced me down and dragged me toward the transport vehicle. The doors slammed shut. Through the window, I saw Coris curled against Rhett's chest. Then, just for a second, she looked up and smiled. Something burned deep inside me. Rhett called her. "If you ever realized that the woman you staked your future on only ever saw you as a stepping stone, would you still choose her?" After dropping Coris off at the county medical center, Rhett couldn't settle. Something wasn't right. He tried to ignore it, but failed. He thought about the facility. About what electroconvulsive therapy actually did. Loss of control. Physical collapse. Long-term damage. Even hardened criminals broke under it. Breyer wouldn't last. He pulled out his comm device, hesitating for a second. Then the door burst open. A dispatch operator stumbled in, face drained of color. "There's been a breach," he said, voice shaking. "Headquarters just confirmed. The 12 high-risk detainees are gone." A beat. Someone let them out. The comms room fell into complete silence. Every eye turned to Rhett. He had led the operation himself. He had signed off on their detention. His throat tightened as the realization settled in. For a moment, the color drained from his face. Then he straightened. "It wasn't me," he said. His voice steadied as he forced control back into place. "This could be an internal breach. A procedural failure. Or deliberate interference," he continued. "I'll take full responsibility for recapturing them and investigating what happened." A sharp, humorless laugh cut through the room. Unnecessary. The pressure in the air shifted instantly. One of the senior chiefs stepped forward, eyes fixed on him. "You just staked your career on this, didn't you? Remember that. Because when this collapses, so will you." He didn't wait for a response. He turned and walked out, the others following close behind. Their footsteps echoed down the corridor, each one landing harder than the last. Rhett didn't move. His fingers curled slightly at his sides. It took him a while before he finally turned and headed for the hospital ward. The door to the room slid open. Coris was propped up against the bed, pale but composed. "Rhett, you're here." Her voice was soft, fragile. The moment she saw him, her expression shifted, relief, dependence. "I'm okay," she said quickly. "Don't blame Breyer. She's always been like that." She lowered her gaze, sighing lightly. "She's my sister, after all. She's always had a temper. Ever since we were kids, she's been used to getting everything. My tuition. She took that too," Coris added quietly. "And my boyfriend. She wanted him as well." Her voice trembled. "I had no choice but to leave home. That's why I joined as a field medic. I just didn't want to keep being pushed around." Normally, Rhett would have stepped in by now, comforting her and reassuring her. But this time, he didn't move. He just stood there, watching her. Something unreadable in his eyes. A long silence stretched between them. Then he spoke. Low. Controlled. "When you went in with my officers," he said, "to administer the injection, did you see anyone else?" Coris froze. Just for a second. Then she forced a small, uncertain smile. "Anyone else?" she echoed. No, I didn't see anyone. When we went in, she was already fighting and screaming, she added quickly. We couldn't do anything, so we left. She hesitated, studying his expression. Maybe she just made it up? The room went still. Rhett didn't respond, but his face had gone pale. That unease, quiet, persistent, was growing. Coris noticed. Her fingers tightened slightly against the sheets. After a moment, she spoke again, more carefully this time. There's something else, she said. I didn't think it mattered before. She looked up, lowering her voice. Briar isn't as innocent as she seems. She used to say that before marrying someone, you should test them first, Coris continued softly. Otherwise, you might end up trapped in a miserable marriage. She gave a small, self-conscious smile. So, if things didn't go the way you expected on your wedding night, she added, maybe try not to take it too seriously. The words settled like a weight in the air. Rhett's expression changed instantly. Sharp. Focused. For a split second, something flashed through his mind. Their wedding night, Briar's hesitation, her nervousness. Every detail was still clear. There had been nothing careless about her. Nothing false. The accusation didn't just feel wrong, it was absurd. He looked at Coris again. Really looked at her. As if seeing her for the first time. The softness in his gaze was gone and replaced by something colder. Coris felt it immediately. A flicker of unease crossed her face. Rhett, I was just trying to help, she said quickly. Her voice dropped. I didn't mean. He looked away, cutting her off without a word. When he spoke again, his tone was flat. Detached. What happens between me and Briar is none of your concern. That was it. No anger. No argument. Just distance. Coris's expression froze. The faint smile on her lips collapsed. She bit down hard, something darker surfacing in her eyes, something she couldn't quite hide. Rhett swallowed hard. His thoughts were a mess. Then it hit him, the call. The one he never made. He had been about to stop the treatment. He glanced back at Coris, still lying in the hospital bed, fragile and quiet. Get some rest, he said, his voice steady again. Don't overthink this. Then he turned and walked out. The hallway lights were harsh. Cold. He pulled out his comm device. His thumb hovered over the button, but didn't press. Instead, something else surfaced. Briar. The way she looked when they dragged her away. Blood on her clothes. Hair disheveled. Her voice shredded raw. I'm telling the truth. The words echoed. Again and again. Like nails driven straight into his skull. Rhett's jaw tightened. What if something had gone wrong? What if she died? Would she believe, even at the end, that he had ordered it? And if that happened, would this life end the same way as the last? With nothing left but hatred? His chest constricted. Sharp. Sudden. That was it. He stopped thinking. Turned. Ran. The car doors slammed shut. The engine roared. He pushed it hard, too hard. The vehicle tore down the road toward the state psychiatric facility. The moment he stepped through the doors, a staff member rushed forward, smiling. Captain Calder, you're here, the man said quickly. Everything's been handled exactly as instructed. She was taken straight into the ECT room the second she arrived, he added. We ran full power. Should be more than enough, she won't. The sentence never finished. Rhett's fist landed first. A sharp crack. The man hit the ground instantly. Rhett stood over him, eyes burning. Who gave that order? He demanded. His voice was low, dangerously controlled. She's my wife. Who authorized you to treat her like that? The man scrambled back, clutching his face, panic flooding in. We thought it came from you. Rhett froze. What? I never gave that order. The man's voice shook violently. The call came from the hospital, he stammered. A woman said she was one of your team. She relayed your instructions. She said it had to be immediate. That you personally authorized increasing the intensity. The air went dead. Completely still. Rhett's mind blanked, then something snapped into place. A name. Coris. His face went pale. Her, he muttered. But just as quickly, he shook his head. No, that didn't make sense. Why would she do that? Coris, who had begged him to take care of the child. who had only ever asked him to protect it. It couldn't be her. It couldn't. His breathing turned uneven. He stopped trying to reason it out. Instead, he grabbed the man by the collar and hauled him up. "Where is she?" he demanded. "Take me there. Now." The man nodded frantically. Inside. Down the hall dash. Rhett let go and ran. The corridor stretched long and narrow, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. At the far end stood a closed door. From inside, a low mechanical hum vibrated through the walls, and beneath it, a scream. Sharp. Raw. Torn straight from someone's throat. Dash. Rhett stopped for just a second, his face draining of all color. Then the door opened. A stretcher rolled out, a body covered in white. Rhett froze. Then in the next second, he lunged forward. His legs gave out halfway, dropping him hard to his knees beside the stretcher. His hands shook so badly he had to steady them against the metal frame. For a moment, he couldn't bring himself to lift the sheet. "Briar," he whispered. His voice barely held together. Then he grabbed the fabric and yanked it back. It wasn't her. An elderly man lay beneath it, skin ashen, already gone. Rhett stared. His mind went completely blank. A nearby attendant rushed in, clearly shaken. "Sir, that patient passed away this morning," he explained quickly. "We haven't transferred him out yet." The words barely registered. Rhett sucked in a breath. Sharp. Shaking. Relief hit him so suddenly it almost hurt. He surged to his feet and grabbed the attendant by the collar. "The woman in the ECT room," he demanded. "Where is she? Bring her out. Now." The attendant flinched, raising both hands. "It's not a woman in there," he said quickly. "It's a male patient, severe agitation case. We can't just release him." Rhett went still. Something tightened in his chest. "Then where is Briar Hale?" he asked. "Where is she?" The attendant hesitated, thinking. "Oh, Miss Hale," he said. "She was picked up not long after she arrived." Rhett's pupils contracted. "By who? Who took her?" "Higher authority," the attendant replied. "Internal affairs. They said she reported the escape of detainees. They needed her for questioning. They left not long ago." Rhett stood there, unmoving. Then something cold crept up his spine. Slow. Inevitable. It hit him all at once. Everything she said was true. The offenders had gotten into the housing unit. The attack had happened. All of it. His throat tightened. But then another thought surfaced, worse than the last. How did they get out? Only he and his direct officers had access to the keys. No one else. Rhett's expression changed instantly. He turned and ran. The engine screamed as the car tore down the road. He pushed it to the limit. There was only one thought left in his mind, find out the truth. The vehicle skidded to a stop at North Ridge. Rhett was out before it fully settled. "Where is he?" he barked. "Bring him to me. Now." Minutes later, a young officer was shoved forward. His face was pale. His legs barely held him up. The moment he saw Rhett, he almost collapsed. "See, Captain." His voice trembled uncontrollably. We released those detainees. And sent them to your wife." He swallowed hard. Has it been discovered?" The words dropped. And the world went silent. Rhett stood there like he'd been struck. Everything in his head went blank. Then he moved, stepping forward and grabbing the man by the front of his uniform. "What did you just say?" he asked. His voice was low. Deadly. "Say it again." The officer was shaking now, barely able to form words. We let them out, sent them after your wife." "Has it been exposed?" The punch landed before he finished. A sharp crack. The officer went down hard, blood spilling from his nose. Rhett's eyes burned red. "You did this," he demanded. "You let them out? And sent them after Briar? Are you out of your mind?" The officer scrambled backward, terrified. "Not just me," he stammered. "It wasn't just me. It was your order." Rhett froze. "My order." His voice dropped. "When did I ever give that order?" The officer's voice broke. "It was Dr. Vane," he blurted. "She came with your authorization, said it came directly from you. She said you were tired of your wife causing trouble, that she was affecting your relationship with her, that you wanted her handled, so she'd stop interfering. We didn't dare question it, he rushed on. The paperwork had your signature. We thought it came from you personally. The words kept coming, each one landing harder than the last. Rhett's chest surged. His vision blurred for a second. I never signed anything, he snapped. His voice cracked raw, unsteady. I have nothing to do with Coris Vane. How could I ever? His breath hitched. Do something like that to Briar? The sentence didn't finish. Pain hit him without warning. Sharp. Violent. Like something had torn straight through his chest. Rhett drove back to the hospital at full speed. He stopped outside the room, but didn't go in. Voices leaked through the door. Low. Tense. A man's voice, shaking, unraveling. Coris, what the hell are you doing? If I hadn't seen you here, I would have thought you disappeared. You're pregnant with my kid, he went on, voice cracking. And the second you hear your sister's getting married, you show up as a field medic? This was about him, wasn't it? You came here to take him from her. His breath hitched. You can't just steal everything she has because she found someone better. So what am I then? He demanded. What do I mean to you? Coris let out a short, cold laugh. You, she said lightly. What do you think you are? Her tone turned flat. I was using you. If you weren't Briar Hale's fiancé, do you think I would have even looked at you? Factory job. No money. No future. Her voice sharpened. And Rhett called her, she continued. Look at him. The youngest captain in the unit. His future's wide open. She's already finished, Coris said calmly. Once I marry him, this child will have everything. A lot more than what you could ever give. The man went quiet. Then what about me? He asked hoarsely. What does that make me? Coris didn't even hesitate. Bad luck, she said. Now get out. Rhett stood frozen outside the door. Color drained from his face, piece by piece. The last trace of warmth in his eyes disappeared. So that was it. From beginning to end, it had all been a setup. And for her, he had destroyed Briar twice. He closed his eyes. Then, bang. The door flew open under his kick, slamming hard against the wall. Both of them flinched. Coris's face went pale. Rhett, she gasped. I thought you left. She stepped back instinctively. Let me explain. Then she snapped at the man. What are you still doing here? Get out. But he didn't move, his red-rimmed eyes locked on Rhett. You think, he said slowly, that child is yours? It's not. It's mine. Silence hit like a shockwave. Coris went completely white. Shut up, she screamed. Just shut up. She rushed toward Rhett, panic spilling out. That's not true, none of it is Rhett, listen to me. He didn't. He kicked her aside. Hard. She hit the floor, scrambling, disheveled. Rhett looked down at her, his eyes empty cold enough to freeze. Take it to command, he said. Not to me. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Heavy. Deliberate. Internal affairs. Coris Vane, one of them said. You're coming with us. That was it. She broke. Completely. She crawled forward, grabbing at Rhett's pant leg. Rhett, please, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I only did it because I love you. He looked down at her, like she was a stranger. Then slowly, he pulled his leg free. They dragged her out. She was still screaming, sharp and desperate. The sound lingered long after she was gone. Rhett didn't move. For a long time, he just stood there, like something hollowed out everything inside him. Eventually, he turned to the senior officers behind him. I'll take full responsibility, he said, voice hoarse. Whatever the consequences are. But I want to see Briar. Out in the timberline outskirts, the wind cut sharp through the trees. I moved ahead with the search team. This way, there's a trail. When they forced their way into the house, when they tried to tear me apart. I had knocked over the stove. The flames had spread fast. Burned them. Badly. They didn't get far. They couldn't. One by one, they were dragged out of the woods. No arrogance left. No fight. The commendation ceremony was held days later. I stood under the lights. Applause rolled through the crowd. Briar Hale demonstrated exceptional composure under threat, the speaker announced. She resisted, retaliated, and assisted in the capture of escaped offenders. Every word landed clearly. On the other side of the room, Rhett stood under investigation. Face strained. Empty. They brought him to me. The moment our eyes met, something inside him shattered. He stepped forward, then dropped to his knees. Hard. Briar. His voice broke. I'm sorry. His head bowed. Words came in fragments. In the last life, I didn't mean to kill you. I just wanted to scare you. I didn't know that Field still had live charges. His breathing faltered. After you died, I didn't last long either. I thought, this time, I could make it right. Murmurs spread through the room, confusion and disbelief rippling through the crowd. I looked at him. Calm. He's unstable, I said. Send him to the facility. Silence fell. Rhett froze, then let out a quiet, broken laugh. He looked up at me. Nothing left in his eyes but ruin. If that's what it takes, he whispered, for you to forgive me, I'll go. I met his gaze and answered slowly, I will never forgive you. Later, I was commended, transferred to a higher division, a future wide open, and Rhett was admitted to the state psychiatric facility. Treatment cycle after cycle. At first, he was still aware. He called my name, over and over. Eventually, even that faded. He forgot everything, except one thing. At night, in the dark, he would still whisper it. Briar. But no one ever answered.
This is Listening Novel. We appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed today's story, please like and subscribe for more stories, and stay tuned for what's next.